Hello students, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'll be solving the first part of Company Accounts 2025 question paper. So this video will be containing all the theoretical aspects, that is the 2 marks theory questions and 5 marks theory questions. So without wasting much time, let's start. The first question which was asked in the last year's question paper is, what do you mean by final accounts? Final accounts, these are the financial statements prepared at the end of an accounting period, usually a financial year, to determine the profit or loss of a business and its financial position. They typically include the trading account, profit and loss account, and the balance sheet. So this is the answer for the 2 marks. Then let's go for question number 2. State any two differences between merger and purchase. The differences between merger and purchases are: in merger, all assets and liabilities of the transferor company are taken over by the transferee company. In purchase, only the assets and liabilities are agreed upon are taken over. In mergers, shareholders holding at least 90% of the face value of equity shares become the shareholders of the new company, and this condition is not required for a purchase. So these two are the basic differences. Fourth question. Pass the journal entry for reduction of preference share capital. The journal entry is simple. Preference share capital account debit to capital reduction. Then, what is voluntary liquidation? Voluntary liquidation, this occurs when a company's members or creditors decide to wind up the company's affairs and dissolve it without a court order, usually because the company is solvent and has achieved its purpose and is no longer viable. Sixth question. What is preferential creditor? Preferential creditors, these are unsecured creditors who under insolvency laws are entitled to be paid in priority to other general unsecured creditors. Example, government taxes, employee wages and statutory dues. Question number 7. What is amalgamation in the nature of merger? Amalgamation in the nature of merger, this is an amalgamation where there is a genuine pooling of assets, liabilities and interests. It must specific it must meet specific criteria such as the transfer of all assets or liabilities and the continued participation of shareholders. Eighth question. What do you mean by subsidiary company? Subsidiary company, a company that is controlled by another company known as the holding or parent company. Control is usually established by owning more than 50% of the voting shares or controlling the composition of board of directors. Ninth question. What is wholly owned and partly owned subsidiary companies? Wholly owned, 100% of the shares are owned by the holding company. Partly owned, the holding company owns more than 50% but less than 100% of the shares. The remaining shares are held by outsider, that is the minority shareholders. Then, what is internal reconstruction? A process where a company's capital structure is rearranged, usually by reducing the share capital to write off accumulated losses and overvalued assets without forming a new company. This is called as internal reconstruction. Question number 11. Expand NCLT. NCLT stands for National Company Law Tribunal. Let's move on to section B. In this section, both are the questions which are asked on the format. The first question is draft a pro forma of liquidator's final statement of account. Basically, he has asked the format of liquidation of companies. So the liquidator's final statement of account is prepared during the winding up process of a company. It is a cash account format showing how assets were realized and how the proceeds were distributed to claimants in order of the statutory priority. So the format is like this. Particulars, in the place of particulars, we write receipts and payments. On the receipt side, the entries are to cash or bank balance to assets realized. Here we have various assets, that is plant, machinery, stock, debtors, etc., land and building. Then on the to side, these two will be the extra entries, that is to surplus from fully secured creditors, to calls on partly paid up shares. On the buy side, the entries are as follows: by legal charges, by liquidator remuneration, by liquidation expenses, by debenture holders, by interest on debentures, by preferential creditors, by unsecured creditors, by preference shareholders, by preference dividend, by equity shareholders. So this is the format which has been asked for 5 marks. Then the next question is question number 12, that is of again of 5 marks. Prepare the chart of minority interest. Now, what is minority interest? Minority interest represents the share of net assets and profits in a subsidiary company that belongs to the outside shareholders, that is not owned by the holding company. The questions, the format is like this: calculation of minority interest, particulars, total amount, holding company, minority interest. The first entry is of share capital. The second entry is of general reserve, in that we have pre-post. Then the fourth and then the third entry is profit and loss account. Again we have pre-post. When we add the last column, we will get minority interest. So this was all about the theoretical aspects which was asked in the year 2025. So in the next videos, I'll be solving all the problem questions, that is from section B and section C. Please watch that video. Thank you.